All right, let's talk about AI and travel. We all use it, right? To find a good restaurant or, get directions to the museum. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty fascinating experiment that totally rethinks how we should be using AI when we're on the road.
I mean, really think about it. Most of the time, we treat AI like a glorified search bar. We fire off these one-off questions and we get simple one-off answers back. But what happens if you stop treating it like a search engine and start treating it like a real project partner?
So this was the big question at the heart of an experimental 3-day trip to Edinburgh. Instead of just asking for tips, the traveler treated the entire trip like a single, ongoing project, and GPT was basically the co-manager. The goal here wasn't just to be more efficient, it was to see if this whole approach could fundamentally change the travel experience itself.
So here's how we're going to walk through this journey. First, we'll define what this new kind of partnership looks like. Then, we'll see how it completely changed a visit to an art gallery. After that, we'll put it to the test under pressure, and finally, we'll lay out exactly how you can try this to unlock a much deeper journey for yourself.
Okay, so what does this new method actually look like in practice? Well, the first, and honestly the most important shift, is getting away from asking these simple, disconnected questions and moving towards a much more integrated way of thinking. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, that's the search engine logic we all use, just a random series of questions. But on the right, you've got project logic. There's one big project, Edinburgh trip, and it's broken down into modules. You've got logistics, the museum tour, art history. They're all separate, continuous threads, but they live inside the same project context.
And that's the key, right? This changes everything. It's not a Q&A session anymore. It's an ongoing collaboration where the AI remembers the entire context of your trip. Every new conversation builds on the last one, and that creates this incredibly rich, intelligent partnership.
But look, this method isn't just about organizing your train tickets better. To see where it really flexes its muscles, we need to get to the moment the whole experiment had its big breakthrough, and it happened, kind of unexpectedly, right in front of a painting by Monet.
So standing there in the gallery, the traveler didn't ask the obvious stuff like, hey, what's the history of this painting? No, they asked a structural question, a question about their own perception. Why does time seem to slow down when I look at this? Now that is the kind of question a simple search engine just can't handle, but a project partner, it can analyze it. And the AI's response was just, wow. It didn't spit out a biography of Monet. It actually deconstructed the feeling of time slowing down. It explained how Monet's whole technique, those broken brush strokes, the way he painted light, was literally engineered to mess with our brain's normal, linear way of processing an image. The AI was analyzing the very mechanics of time. And because this was all one big, continuous project, the conversation didn't just end there in the gallery. It kept evolving. The discussion grew to compare the Monet in Edinburgh with others in the Netherlands, and even to a Monet the traveler had seen years ago in New York, just by uploading an old photo. The project was connecting past and present experiences into one coherent thread.
The analysis just got more and more sophisticated. The AI helped figure out why the very same artist could make you feel time differently in different cities. It broke down these key variables, the soft, almost breathing light in the Edinburgh gallery versus that cold, static light in New York. The story the museum was telling around the painting, and even how personal memory was layering on top of the experience right now.
So the real point here is this project-based approach unlocked a kind of insight that goes way beyond art history. This stopped being a conversation about a painting. It became a deep dive into how art fundamentally re-engineers our own subjective experience of time. You just don't get to that level of depth by asking, who painted this?
Okay, so that's the cool, artsy side of things. But what happens when things go wrong? Because let's be real, travel is messy. And that's where this method really got put to the test. So it's the final day. And bam! Disaster strikes. The train back from Edinburgh breaks down. Everyone's forced to get off, scramble to buy new tickets, deal with massive delays. It's the classic travel nightmare, right? Total stress, total confusion, total chaos.
And in the middle of all that chaos, there was a very real problem to solve. How to get a refund for that original £91.90 ticket. I mean, trying to figure out complex refund policies when you're super stressed is the last thing your brain is equipped to do. So, the traveler just dumps all of this chaotic information, delay announcements, ticket details, the fine print on the refund policy, into their GPT project. And instantly, the AI turns that absolute mess into a crystal clear, 4-step action plan. It assessed the rules, it built a logical argument for the claim, it defined exactly what evidence was needed, and it even predicted how the train company might try to push back.
And this moment reveals a brand new role for AI in our lives. In that crisis, it wasn't just an assistant, it became what you could call a cognitive order maintainer. When our own thinking gets clouded by stress and confusion, the AI partner can step in to provide structure, clarity, and a logical path forward. It's pretty incredible.
So, after this whole 3-day experiment, what's the big takeaway? How can we actually apply this to our own lives, to our own travels? Well, this last section boils the whole thing down into a really powerful new toolkit.
This is probably the most important lesson of the whole thing. If you're just looking for an AI to make your trip effortless, you're kind of missing the point. The real magic of this method isn't about convenience. It's about using AI to engage with the world around you on a much more profound, analytical, and insightful level.
You know, the quality of your experience is directly tied to the quality of your questions. This method is all about pushing you up that ladder. You go from simple surface questions like, what is this, to deeper questions about narrative, and then finally, all the way up to these structural questions about how things are actually designed to affect you.
And here's the playbook, boiled down into 4 simple steps. 1. Treat your trip as one big, continuous project. 2. Keep your topics, like logistics and art, in separate threads. It gives you much better answers. 3. Really push yourself to ask those why and how questions. And 4. Don't be afraid to lean on it when things go sideways. That's when you really see its value as a thinking partner.
And I think this is so important. This isn't about letting an AI take over your trip. It's a whole new kind of collaboration. The AI acts like a scaffold for your own brain, a partner that helps you organize your thoughts, ask better questions, and see the world in a way you couldn't on your own. It doesn't replace you, it amplifies you.
Which, of course, leads us to the final question. This whole project-based method, it's not just for travel, right? You could use it to learn a new skill, to do research, to manage a complex project at work. So the real question this experiment leaves us with is, now that you have this incredibly powerful new partner, what will you build with it?